Hi, it's Ben from My Cycling Coach. I hope you're well and that you're having a great day. So I've been speaking to quite a few riders recently who are now looking to kickstart their winter training as they've got some things they would like to start preparing for next spring and summer. Really want to now have a good solid winter of training. And as a result of this, they've been reading around, looking online at various options and ways that they can now really maximize their winter training. And a lot of the riders have been sort of coming to me and saying, I've found that there's a lot of information out there that says I should be doing lots of hours, lots of long rides, riding at a low intensity around zone 2, and this is sort of what I'm finding is the best way to prepare, or what the information is showing. One thing they're saying is they're struggling to be able to do this or see themselves being able to put this amount of time in, as the recommendations are saying, you know, these long rides need to be 2-3 hours in length. And you need to be doing this multiple times a week, and they're really struggling to put that time commitment or manage that time commitment into their weekly schedule, if you like. And I'm saying, you know, I'm not surprised, because unless you have got 15, 20, 25 hours a week that you can put into your training, that sort of training method isn't going to be as effective. You know, that sort of method is mainly really used by pros, certainly through the winter, which is where I think a lot of the guys that I was speaking to were getting that information from. They were reading around a lot of what pros were doing. And, you know, pros do have that training time because it's their job. You know, they can do 20, 25, 30 hours a week in zone 2 to get those adaptations. But for sort of general hobby cyclists, amateur cyclists, this obviously isn't possible. If you've got a full-time job, family, commitments and everything, we are a lot more limited on training time. And one other limitation I can find with this sort of training method at this time of year is obviously the nights. You know, days get shorter, it gets darker a lot earlier, and being able to really put that amount of time in and do those longer rides, we're obviously a lot more restricted. Also, weather conditions change, so you may find that, you know, instead of being able to do those longer rides out on the road, it can be then a lot harder to do those long rides, because you may find that you're doing more riding on your turbo trainer indoors. You can't get outside for longer. And, you know, doing that sort of long zone 2, 3, 4, 5 hour endurance rides on your turbo, one, you may not have the time to do this, but 2, it can be quite monotonous and sort of tedious doing those types of rides. So I wanted to do a quick tip on the video on the page today to sort of give you a bit of advice on another training method I'm a strong believer in. I use a lot of my clients, but I found has worked very well with my own training and a lot of riders that I've worked with in previous years. And that is, rather than focusing on doing the long, low intensity rides, that you focus on really trying to develop your threshold power, VO2 max and your FTP through the winter, as it's a lot easier to do this, as the sessions that you will be doing will be a lot shorter, a lot more compact, and then this is obviously much more beneficial with your time availability, because you won't need to be doing 2, 3, 4 hours every time you get on the bike. You can do a real good quality compact threshold or VO2 max session in 60 minutes and get some real good adaptations from that. And if you're doing that 2, 3, 4 times a week, this is really going to allow you to drag up that top end power, if you like, FTP, which is going to bring all of your zones up anyway. So that zone 2 power that you would be trying to develop through doing maybe the more longer duration, lower intensity riding, you will be developing that zone more anyway through bringing up your top end power and FTP. Because obviously as that FTP increases, your zone 2 power will improve as well. You may then, you know, if you get time, if the weather's looking good at the weekend, you may decide that you would then like to do maybe a 2-3 hour endurance ride. So you certainly can incorporate some of this, and I would recommend that you do so. It might be that once a week you do have a bit more time and you can get on the trainer and you can devote a bit more time to just doing a 2-3 hour ride there. But I would certainly stick with that approach as you go through the winter, certainly till March time, until spring. Short, sharp sessions, develop that threshold, develop that VO2, pull up that top end power and FTP, And then when spring arrives, April time, as the weather starts to improve a little bit, we hope, at that time of year, the days then obviously start to get longer again. You can then switch back to developing your endurance. And if you are a rider that has got some big sportives planned next year, frequently doing 100 milers, you will obviously need to start getting some sort of duration and longer rides back in the legs. But from now until March, bring up that top end, and then when springtime comes, the days get longer, the weather improves, you may have more time at that time of year then to start building that endurance. So yeah, just a quick tip there today. As I say, a lot of guys have been messaging me saying they've been reading about that type of training, 20, 25 hours a week to try and get those improvements with Zone 2. And that is the sort of time that you all need to be putting in there. Try that approach that I mentioned today, and I promise you, you will see some great benefits and gains with your training in the winter, and allow you to really perform at your best come next spring and summer. If you found this video useful, guys, as always, please drop a like on the post. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for our most recent content. Any comments, as always, would also love to hear from you. But have a great rest of your day, enjoy your riding, and speak soon.